So in this next video, what we'll look at is creating a Windows VM, which will be used for configuring the UI element of OPNsense. We'll go through how you update the appliance and then also how you create a forward rule. So what we can then do is RDP through the firewall to a Windows system inside the environment itself. So the first thing we'll do is look to deploy a Windows VM on this LAN network as well. So we'll drag over a server. We'll also drag in some storage. The server itself is going to be an AD server in this demo series, so it can be used like a management server as well. I'm just going to call it AD server for the moment. I can apply the number of cores and RAM to the system. This example, it's going to be a 2 CPU with a 4 gig of memory within that. The disk itself is going to run Windows, and this is going to be obviously the boot disk for that. What I'm also going to do for this VM is basically increase the size of the storage as well. So I'll be using 100 gig in size for the boot disk itself. Regarding the operating system, so there's obviously a number of choices you can do here. You can utilize any snapshots you've got for like a Windows build, and I've got quite a few here that I could utilize if required. What I'll do though in this demo is I'll go through just the standard installation of a Windows server, apply the relevant password that I want to use for this Windows system itself. And I could also obviously attach a backup agent into the VM at the same time, and that would then connect into the backup unit and then register itself to the environment, so I can then obviously back up this VM. I'll leave this for the moment because I don't need to do that at the moment. So I'll pick up the network card from the AD server. I'll drop it down onto that LAN interface. This is going to use a static IP address for the LAN network. So if I go to networking, disable DHCP because I'm going to use a static IP address again. For reference purposes here, I could put in, what the address is going to be for the AD server. As we're not utilizing DHCP, this really designation is redundant because it's what's happening inside the operating system which is important. What IP addresses you assign to the network card, as long as it's reachable on the LAN to the gateway, then we're good to go. So that's the IP address sorted, and then what we can do is provision this VM for deployment. So we just click on that. Okay, let's close this. Okay, yeah, so a couple of, I guess, warnings here. So it says the OPNsense firewall has no boot device. We can resolve that actually in a second as well. And it's also saying that I've got 2 disks called boot, which are not unique. I can ignore both of those warnings at the moment because we know the OPNsense firewall is actually booting up fine. But I can resolve that by going into the storage for the boot device. So if I just cancel that, expand the disk, and then what I can do is click on this make boot disk device, which is now done, and then reprovision the changes. One bootable. Oh, sorry. So what we'll also see is a warning regarding the operating system. We know it's Linux, so it's fine. So we just click OK on that and provision changes. So we'll just wait for this process to complete. The Windows deployment is slightly longer than Linux, so it probably takes about 5 minutes or so to complete. So we'll just leave this going for the moment, and then I'll continue once the deployment has finished. So we can see now the Windows VM has been provisioned. So we can just double check the configuration of the VM. It started, we can see, with the green icons there. If we look at the networking, we can see the networking address has been assigned, but we need to configure that internally anyway on the VM. So if we look at the VM itself, and for this we need to use the console, as we have no route in via the firewall to RDP to the VM at the moment. So if we click on console, and we'll start going through that process. So we can close down the warnings here or information regarding the VM. And then we'll just wait for the boot up process to complete. Yep, so there's going to be a slight configuration change, and then we'll just wait for the login screen to show, and then we'll log into the VM. Okay, so we've got the login screen. If we just click on the send key combo and go for Control-Delete, and then what we'll do is we'll use the password that we defined for the image when we went through the installation or configuration process for the VM itself. Okay, what you're getting is a vanilla version or installation of Windows 2016 in this case, and typically I normally go through the server manager and start switching off certain things that I don't use, which typically would prohibit me in some respect of some environments, etc. as well. So we'll just wait for this to occur. Notice this process of the console with the Windows UI isn't the best performance. It is a HTML5 based browser, so it is what it is. You just work with it and do the best you can until you can get an RDP session up and running. Okay, so we'll just obviously just respond to the relevant requests which are coming in. The first thing we'll do is just configure the networking just to make sure that's up and running. So we'll just open the network and settings page. We'll look for the Ethernet adapter. What we'll then do is go through the properties of that. And as I said before, this is going to be an AD server for its operational life. So I'm going to set a static IP address for that in this case. So this is going to be a 10.10.1.10 address with 255.255. Oops, my typing. 255.0. Oh, there we go. It's a typo. 255.255.0, and then the default gateway is going to be that LAN address that we set on the OPNsense appliance. The default DNS server will actually be itself, in all honesty, because DNS requests will come back here for the local network. Any external access can be given as well. So here I'll just go 10.10.1.1 and also 8.8.8.8 as a backup. And then just click OK on that, and then OK again on that. And what we'll see is this reflection should change, so it'll allow me to connect to the outside world once I've switched off my firewall, etc. as well. So straight away you can see you've got internet connectivity. So if I just close that, close this screen, I don't need that anymore. And then from here, I would then just go through and start switching on, off whatever I don't need. Things like IE security would normally slow me down quite a bit. So just turn it off for the moment. Also the firewall internally, again, I could obviously leave that on and open up the relevant rules for that. For ease of use for the moment, I'll just switch that off for the time being. And again, I could turn that on later and set up the relevant rules for that. Happy with that, I can then close that. That'll do for the moment on the configuration side. What I'm going to do now is connect to the appliance and then go through the configuration. IE is the default browser, obviously, with Windows. What I'm going to do there, I'll accept the default settings for the moment, is just go to download Chrome. So we'll just wait for this to come up, and we are going to download Chrome. Okay, got it. Yep, and run. I just use Chrome because it's easier to do the configuration, especially with things like SSL certificates and things like that. So just wait for this to download, which is going to be quick. And we'll just wait for it to finish installing, and then we'll connect to the appliance when that's done. There we go, easy peasy. Right, okay, so if we go to the appliance, which is on that 10.10.1.1 address, and then we'll see the relevant security for HTTPS connection. So we just proceed and go to that, and then log in with the root password and also the relevant password that you've applied. So the root user and relevant password. Okay, there's some other things which are occurring on the VM, so we just leave those in the background. And then here we can see the initial configuration process itself. There is a wizard, which you can see here, that will get you up and running. To be honest with you, we've done the core configuration that we need to at the moment, so I would normally just ignore this for the moment and don't go through the wizard itself. What I would normally do is just check where I am in relation to updated system files that the appliance needs. So I'd normally go through the process of updating the relevant firmware. Here what I can do is just check for updates and let that run. We'll come back to that in a minute, or actually it's quick, it's done already. What we can do is do a straightforward update on the relevant packages which are there. Click on update now. And then it'll go through the update process for the available packages which are there. It's going to give you information about any updated packages from that package binary. We'll close that, and then what we can do is update the system. Once you click on update, there will be a reboot, as you can see at the end there, so it will actually reboot. Before I go there though, what I want to do is just highlight how we can go through the firewall for RDP session itself. So what I'm going to do is highlight firewall by clicking on that, go to NAT, because I'm going to create a port forward rule to this VM through the appliance itself. So what I'll do is click on add. We're going to look for the WAN interface where the request is going to come into. It's going to be an IP4 request. We are going to go to a single host in relation to the request for RDP itself. So here the the target IP is a single IP address. So the destination port is going to be RDP, and we can see there that's the MSRDP protocol which is going to be used. We're going to forward the request on to a 10.10.1. This VM is going to be the end target, so that's the 10.10.1.10 address. And then there's nothing else really that we need to specify for this. You can see it's obviously coming back on an RDP for the destination and also the target as well. We'll just click on save on that. Oh, what have I forgotten? Field destinations required. Oh, sorry, yes, I need to change the destination. So this needs to change to the WAN address is the destination in relation to the request. So the request will come in on that 77.68.11.43 address, which is the WAN address. It's going to be using or requesting the RDP as a protocol, and then it'll be diverted to the 10.10.1.10 address. So this should now save. We can apply the changes. So that's done. So what I should be able to do now, as there's no firewall in theory blocking me the RDP request, is create the request for the relevant session. So again, I'm just pointing to the firewall IP address, which will then forward my request on to that internal VM, which is this Windows VM itself. So I'll just click on connect. We can see here it's requesting credentials, so there is a connection there. We'll just connect in with the administrator user and also the relevant password we had set up. Click OK, and if we're happy with that, we can say yes, and it will log me out of the session behind, and we're now at the same location where we were in relation to that configuration. So that's really just demonstrating how we do the port forward for the relevant NAT request. So I'll just finish this video section here back on the update. So if I go back to the system, the firmware, updates, we saw the relevant packages which are available to us. If we check back for the updates, and again the same message as before, we got the information about the relevant packages, and then we just update now, and then obviously reboot once it's done. So this will go through the process of downloading those packages, applying them, and then the session will be reset. So this probably will kick you out of the session because the appliance is going to be rebooted. But once the appliance is back up, you should be able to RDP back onto that Windows system and then carry on with the rest of the video series in relation to things like AD and iSCSI, etc. as well. So with that, I'll leave this going for the moment, and then we'll catch up on the next video where we've left off here.